Hi, this is Bethany Gagné, founder of the Albany Peace Project, and today I'm here with David Parisian, who has an impressive teaching background that you employ with HeartMath tools to help students really excel in school the way they're naturally, like as you said, want to, because we have a natural curiosity to learn. Can you tell people about your teaching history?
Oh, my background. All right. Yeah, I'm certified in New York State to teach biochemistry and earth science. I was a secondary science teacher for about 17 years. And my last 12 years I served as an administrator in the Liverpool Central School District as their curriculum coordinator for math, science, and technology. And that gave me an interesting perspective in terms of it. When I was doing my doctoral work, I was still a 9th grade earth science teacher, where we basically, my areas are in applied cognitive sciences, learning styles, accelerated learning, and advanced instructional technologies.
All right. So, and we were talking earlier about how when kids learn about their own nervous system or understand how we're hardwired, it just sets them up to be more efficient in their learning, right?
Well, it makes them realize, yes, it makes them realize that they can learn. A lot of times they feel that, you know, they're pressured to be a valedictorian or something like that. And once people understand what their strengths are, their weaknesses are, you know, you work from your strengths, but then you work on your weaknesses as well. You know, but we can also integrate techniques and strategies such as you know, applied cognitive sciences with the use of chunking or mnemonics, mind mapping, you know, using spatial memory systems to help encode information, to lay down a foundational groundwork that makes the encoding of information maybe easier.
Right, right. And we were talking about how that helps with reducing test anxiety, with all this standardized testing going on, you know, this generation of kids, you know, almost, I've met several kids, and they feel very pressured by the standardized testing, and they have to do well, and they don't even know why, but they just feel like, you know, like, and it's really impacting these kids. You said you feel as though it's impacting them by like 15%.
Well,
I mean, your gut is saying that.
My gut's saying that, and I'm saying that only because that if we encode a stress response, a survival nature, so whether it's seeing an exam or coming across a bear in the woods, you know, the body is going to respond as a stress response. So we're either going to fight, flee, or freeze.
Right.
And certain physiological actions take place when it happens. And I'll use my hand as an example here. I'm just going to cross my thumb over my palm and then close it. And this represents the 3 parts, or the triune model of the brain, where the outside is the neocortex. The outside is the thinking part of the brain, roughly 4 million years old. So this is where school is. You know, this is where math and language and, you know, the prefrontal cortex, executive function. This is the thinking part of the brain. And the interesting thing is, if it controls thinking, does it control learning? Interesting question. The middle part here, as I open up this thumb, is the limbic system, roughly 130 million years old. And in it resides emotion, with the hippocampus and the thalamus and the amygdala. And I'll mention those 3 only because they're important in the function of the midbrain. But the thalamus is like your brain's router. Literally all sensory information coming in gets sorted through that and sent out to the various parts of the brain for processing. The amygdala sits below it. I call it the nosy neighbor, because it's monitoring the emotional temperament of that energy. So if it sees something in danger, for example, I use dog as an example. If you grew up with a puppy that loved you unconditionally and met you when you got off the bus or home from school and laid in the bed and gave you lots of hugs and kisses, you have a nice warm fuzzy feeling when someone says dog.
Right.
However, if the neighbor's German Shepherd chased you down the street at the age of 6 and you ran for your life and someone says dog, just by the mere mention of the word, you have a totally different physiological response. So the amygdala monitors both internal and external environments to look for that for our safety. It's not there, you know, by accident. It's there for safety. So when we see a stress response, it immediately responds it. When you get a stress response, 1,400 hormones hit your system, and the brain narrows its focus from the neocortex, the thinking part of the brain, down into the lower parts of the brain, of the limbic and the R complex, as it gears for survival. And we've all experienced that at one time or another. If you've ever taken a test, a high stakes, you thought you did well on it.
Right.
But then when you leave the exam and walk out in the hall and you start having conversations about it, you realize you really blew the exam. And that's a result of that, because once your stress is no longer on you, you're back in your thinking part of the brain,
right.
You know what all the answers were.
And there's a pretty dramatic example of that in the heart math literature that you were sharing, right? With that 6-week where they taught kids just heart math skills with no reading skills. Like, can you tell them about that study?
There was a, well, they did a test edge study using heart math strategies to show that using their techniques, you can get a marked improvement on test performance. One of the interesting things is when we talk about that stress response, you're literally talking about our involuntary nervous system, our sympathetic and parasympathetic systems aren't in sync, right? They're in a chaotic state, and when the heart is beating in a chaotic pattern, it sets up cortical inhibition. It's called a state of chaos. Mm-hmm. Doing a quick coherence, heart-focused breathing, bringing in that feeling, that regenerative, that positive emotion of appreciation and gratitude, smooths out that and begins to generate a sine wave, and that over time, when you get good, it generates a sine wave. But what it does, though, is it shifts and calms and resynchronizes the thalamus. It resynchronizes through the amygdala that brain function and puts you back in your head.
Right.
So the simple thing of drawing a heart around every 5th question and doing that technique can help diffuse that test anxiety and bring it about. And with training, one can get very efficient at that.
So you've been working with students, right, that are really wanting to improve their academic performance, and by bringing these cognitive skill sets plus the heart math skills. I mean, what was interesting about that study, right, is that they didn't teach any reading skills. They just taught them this self-regulation through the heart math techniques. And what was the increase in grade? It was 2.
I can't remember exactly the study from that.
But I remember that they had actually made a marked improvement, and it was really, they're saying that it wasn't that they got smarter, it was the fact that they had calmed down the nervous system to access what the knowledge they already had.
Right, and this day and age, a lot of the students feel that way, and a lot of it is really not understanding that the emotional component.
Yes,
now that we know the input or the results of the emotional component, with training, people can learn to self-regulate, and that's the point of heart math. Right. Heart math builds upon resiliency, energy management system, whether you're having draining emotions, which are negative, or the positive regenerative emotions, and optimal performance. Right. Because when you're in that coherent state, you are literally at a point that promotes cortical facilitation, promotes recall, promotes memory enhancement, promotes all the things that one wants to do. And promotes creativity, promotes problem solving, all the literature and research is showing that this is improved in a state of coherence.
I think about it, it's like our whole lives we have challenges after challenges, and to have some skills to be able to manage that. One of the studies that I've been looking at is in San Francisco, where during quiet time in the schools, they said in one of those neighborhoods there had been 41 murders in 2003, I think it was. So everyone in that school had either known someone who pulled the trigger, knew someone who was shot, or knew someone who was severely hurt by being shot. Like, to not address their emotional needs just seems like so negligent, that's what's so elegant about, I love the heart math skills, that you can teach kids this ability to go into their own nervous system and recalibrate and kind of lower some of that emotional noise, right?
It's how we react to any event, any situation.
Yeah.
That's the only choice we have.
Right.
You have an event, we have a reaction, and there's an outcome.
Right.
And how we respond is in our control.
And that's our power, right?
And that's our power.
Right.
Yep.
And the way you're able to kind of bring the cognitive science in with the heart math and just really help help students get in their own power, academic power.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much, David, for making the
My
trip.
pleasure.
We're going to be working with, we're going to offer David's meditation in just a moment. And if you'd like to reach out to David as an academic coach, he's fabulous. And just use his contact information below. So thank you so much for participating, and we'll see you tomorrow.